So, you think you're tough enough to have survived in the Dark Ages, resilient enough to have made it past the age of 30 in medieval times? Think again, because you wouldn't last a day. Forget the romanticized portrait of noble knights riding out to rescue damsels in distress and roaring fires in grand banquet halls where the people gather for nightly feasts. The average commoner wasn't even treated to a hot bath at the end of a long day, let alone a celebration. In medieval Europe, the average life expectancy was somewhere in the range of 30 years. Not because people dropped dead at that age, but because they usually didn't make it out of childhood. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that you're a healthy, physically fit 30-year-old survivalist today, and we drop you straight into a medieval European village at sunrise. Let's see how long you survive. Hygiene and the morning routine. Your first shock is the smell. It hits like a punch. Human waste lines the muddy streets. Pigs, dogs, and chickens roam freely, adding their contributions. Chamber pots are emptied from second-story windows with zero warning. If you're standing below when it happens, congratulations. It's baptism by urine. There is no toothpaste, no deodorant, no toilet paper. If you're lucky, you might find a bucket of cold water or a communal river. But that water doubles as the town's toilet, dishwashing station and laundry service. It's teeming with bacteria. Drink from it and you'll be dead in a week if you make it that long. Even your clothes betray you. Their wool coarse and go unwashed for weeks. Lice and fleas are normal. So normal, in fact, that nuns and monks shaved their heads just to make them easier to spot. You've only been here for 10 minutes and already want to go home, but we're just getting started. Breakfast and the class divide. Ready to start your day with a healthy breakfast? Think again, peasant. Gruel is the only option on the menu, and it's as unappetizing as it sounds. A thin paste of barley or oats boiled in water and served without salt or seasoning of any kind. Maybe you get a crust of stale bread if the rats haven't gotten to it first. There is no coffee, no sugar, no protein. The caloric intake for a medieval peasant was alarmingly insufficient, especially when paired with the 10 to 12 hours of physical labor you do every day. If you're a noble, things are slightly better, but not by much. Your food is seasoned with a reckless amount of salt to hide the taste of rot. There's no refrigeration, no ice for most of the year. Meat is preserved with salt, dried, or just left to hang and hope. Utensils, forget it. People eat with their hands, which are rarely washed, usually filthy, and routinely used to tend pigs and wipe themselves. By now, your stomach is turning, as it should be. Dysentery kills more people than war in the Dark Ages. Work, blisters, and a broken spine. It's time to earn your keep. You're a peasant, which means you work the land. That sounds quaint, until you realize your tools are primitive, your back is untrained, and your hands are soft. Blisters appear and pop by the dozen, opening you up to infection. Your skin splits from the sun. There's no sunscreen, no gloves, and no room for missteps. One wrong move with a plow, and you throw your back out with no chiropractor to fix it, but you don't get to stop working. There are no labor laws and no workers' compensation. You simply keep going and keep suffering. Maybe you're apprenticed to a blacksmith. This sounds better until you inhale metal fumes for hours in a poorly ventilated shed and catch on fire. Even children weren't spared. By age 7, you're expected to contribute to the family's survival. That means hauling wood, herding animals, or working a loom until your fingers bleed and callous over. There are no iPads, smartphones, or video games here. Working and fighting to survive are your only pastimes. Medicine, or the lack of it. Let's say you're tough enough to survive the workday. Good for you. Now you've stepped on a rusty nail, or sliced your hand on a scythe. Maybe you've got a fever. Don't expect antibiotics. penicillin won't be discovered for another 600 years. Instead, you're bled with leeches or have a hole drilled in your skull to let out the evil spirits. Trepanation, they called it. No anesthesia, no hygiene, just bone dust and screaming. Even childbirth is a gamble for both the mother and baby. In many instances, women begged their priests for the last rites before going into labor. If either or both of you survive, there is little to look forward to. Hope is non-existent in medieval times. The Black Death is just a few decades away, and when it comes, it will wipe out roughly a third of Europe's population. Even if you stay healthy, there's always famine, and famine brings something worse. Desperation, crime, punishment, and random accusations. Let's say you break the law. Maybe you stole a loaf of bread to survive. Maybe someone just accused you of it. It doesn't matter. There's no forensic science, no presumption of innocence. If the local bailiff doesn't like your face, you're guilty. And the justice doled out randomly is public and brutal. Stockades humiliate you. Whipping flays the skin from your bones. Branding scars you for life. If you're convicted of heresy or witchcraft, the punishment is often death, and it won't come quickly. Burned, hanged, or worse. Drawn and quartered. That's when your limbs are tied to horses and pulled in opposite directions. And the crowd, they cheer. It's the only form of entertainment most of them will experience in their short, miserable lifetimes. False confessions weren't just common, they were inevitable. Once the torturer laid hands on you, the question wasn't if you'd talk, but when. A crushing boot could turn your foot to pulp before you even scream. Thumb screws weren't just painful, they were surgical in their precision, turning bone and nerve into powder. You could literally hear your own body breaking. But that was just the warm-up. If your inquisitor didn't think your forced confession went far enough, you'd be hoisted by your wrists, dislocating both shoulders as the interrogation continued. Or your body might be pressed under heavy stones until your ribs cracked like twigs. Worse yet, you could be strapped to a chair studded with iron spikes, where the act of breathing became self-inflicted agony. Eventually, you'd confess to anything: heresy, witchcraft, murdering your neighbor's cow. It didn't matter if it was true. The goal wasn't justice, it was obedience, and a good show for the crowd. Religion and fear. Religion rules everything here. God watches every move, and the church watches even closer. Speak out against it, and you're excommunicated, or worse. Your life isn't your own. It belongs to your Lord, your church, and your superstition. You fear God, witches, the devil, fairies, and anything that might explain why your crops failed or your baby died. To avoid eternal damnation, people whip themselves, starve themselves, and pay indulgences they can't afford. And if you're a woman, you're more likely to be blamed for sin, accused of witchcraft, or forced into a marriage by the age of 14. That's if you're lucky. If you're a widow, your property rights are tenuous at best. In the Middle Ages, guilt wasn't determined by evidence. It was decided by power, fear, or pure chance. Nightfall and survival. You've made it to sundown, but don't relax just yet. There's no electricity and candles are expensive. In the Dark Ages, the dark isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Thieves come at night, so do wolves, and so does fire. Homes are built from wood and straw. A single spark can wipe out a town. You'd better have a good excuse if you're caught outdoors after curfew. Otherwise, you're assumed to be a criminal, or worse, a leper or spy. So you stay indoors. Inside your tiny hut, you collapse from exhaustion onto a straw bed infested with fleas. Someone's coughing next to you. Someone else is snoring. There's no privacy, no silence, no peace. And that's if you're not being invaded by a rival lord or conscripted to fight in some pointless border war before dawn. Why you wouldn't last. So, still think you'd last 24 hours? It wasn't just the disease, starvation, or violence that broke people. It was the relentless grind of survival without choice or rest. Every minute was a negotiation between suffering and obedience. The truth is that you were never meant for this savage world. And it was never meant to last. But for 1,000 years it did, though it was nothing like the romanticized age of knights and princesses, depicted in today's movies, books, and video games. Medieval times were a living hell. In the end, it's difficult to say who the lucky ones were, the few who managed to survive in this brutal world, or the ones who escaped it early through death.